In the heart of the misty mountains where shadows cling to ancient trees, lies the village of Thornhaven. For 3 long years, a silence as heavy as the mountain fog has blanketed this once joyful community. A silence born of tragedy, a silence that began with fire and a scream. It happened during the harvest festival, a time meant for celebration, but the festivities were shattered when Azrath, a fearsome dragon with scales like polished obsidian, descended from the sky. Chaos erupted. Flames licked at the festive banners, and panic scattered the villagers. In the midst of it all, a 5-year-old girl named Emma, with hair like spun gold, was snatched from her mother's desperate grasp. The great beast clutched the screaming child in its claws and vanished into the forbidding northern peaks, leaving behind nothing but smoke and a mother's broken heart. Thornhaven did not surrender easily. They sent their bravest warriors, men who had faced down beasts and bandits. They hired skilled mercenaries with legendary reputations. They even sought the aid of wise old wizards whose spells could bend the very elements. But the dragon's lair, hidden deep within the treacherous mountains, became a tomb for them all. None ever returned. Hope, once a flickering flame, was extinguished. The village elder with a heavy heart declared young Emma lost forever. Thornhaven sank into a state of perpetual mourning, its spirit crushed under the weight of its loss. Emma's mother, Sarah, became a ghost in her own home. Her days were spent staring at the jagged silhouette of the mountains, her eyes searching for a sign, a miracle that would never come. She grew pale and withdrawn, a living embodiment of the village's collective grief. The laughter of children became a painful echo of what was lost, and the once vibrant community was now defined by a single shared wound. Then, one day, a stranger walked into Thornhaven. He was a warrior, but not like the boastful mercenaries or eager young fighters they had seen before. His name was Marcus. His face was a map of old battles, etched with scars that told stories of survival. But it was his eyes that truly set him apart, gray like a storm-swept sea, and burning with a quiet, unyielding determination. Marcus was a man on a journey, but he wasn't seeking gold or glory. He was chasing redemption. Years ago, in a distant land, he had failed to protect his own sister from a brutal attack. The guilt from that day had become his constant companion, forging him into a protector of the innocent. He traveled from village to village, following whispers of a great black dragon, a creature that left a trail of terror in its wake. When he arrived in Thornhaven and heard the story of little Emma, the tale resonated with the deepest pain in his soul. This was not just another monster to be slain. This was a chance to silence the ghosts of his past. He didn't rush off with sword in hand. Instead, Marcus became a scholar of the beast. He pored over ancient texts, deciphering forgotten lore about dragons and their weaknesses. He sought out the few who had survived encounters with Azrath, listening intently to their harrowing tales, piecing together the dragon's habits, its patterns, its fury. The villagers watched him, their long-dormant hopes stirring with a painful flicker. They saw him meticulously sharpening his blade until it gleamed, reinforcing every plate of his worn armor, and carefully packing his supplies with the precision of a man who understood that a single mistake would be his last. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of purple and orange, Sarah approached him. Her face was a mask of sorrow, etched with the lines of 1,000 unshed tears. But tonight they flowed freely. "Please," she whispered, her voice cracking. She pressed a small, worn wooden doll into his calloused hands. This was Emma's favorite. She never went anywhere without it. She looked up at him, her eyes pleading. "If you find her, if there is any chance, give her this. Let her know her mother never ever stopped loving her." Marcus looked from the doll to the grieving mother. He saw in her face the reflection of his own failure, his own loss. He didn't offer empty words of comfort or false promises of victory. He simply gave a solemn nod, his gaze steady and resolute. He carefully tucked the small wooden doll into a protected pouch inside his pack, a fragile symbol of hope on a mission of despair. As the first light of dawn broke over the mountains, Casting long shadows across the silent village, Marcus departed. He walked away from Thornhaven, not towards glory, but into the heart of the treacherous peaks where so many had vanished. With each step, he followed the cold, lonely trail of the dragon, venturing into a realm where few dared to go, and from which even fewer returned. The weight of a village's sorrow and a mother's last hope rested on his shoulders, and the ghost of his own past walked beside him. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If you're as captivated by this story as I am and want to see what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the next chapter. Your support means the world. See you in the next video. The journey through the mountains demanded every last bit of Marcus's strength, testing his skills to their absolute limit. He scaled treacherous, ice-slicked cliffs, navigated through blinding, disorienting snowstorms, and even fought off packs of hungry mountain wolves that stalked him in the shadows. With every step higher, the air grew thinner, colder, and seemed charged with a menacing, ancient presence. The paths he followed were littered with the bones of those who had come before him, grim, silent warnings of the fate that awaited the unprepared. After 5 long, grueling days of this relentless ascent, Marcus finally found it, the entrance to Azrath's lair. It was a massive cave, carved violently into the mountainside, its mouth blackened and scorched by centuries of dragon fire. The air itself was a suffocating miasma, thick with the stench of sulfur and decay that clung to the back of his throat. He paused at the threshold, the darkness within seeming to breathe. Marcus steeled his resolve, his hand instinctively going to the hilt of his sword, checking his weapons one final time before he stepped out of the light and into the oppressive blackness. Inside, the cave tunnels wound deep into the heart of the mountain. The only light came from an eerie phosphorescent glow emanating from strange fungi clinging to the damp rock walls. Marcus moved with the silence of a hunter, his sword drawn and ready, his senses on high alert. He followed the sound of heavy, rhythmic breathing that echoed through the labyrinthine chambers, a sound that grew steadily louder, closer. But then, another sound cut through the gloom, something so unexpected it made his heart clench in his chest. It was a young girl's voice singing a soft, haunting melody. He crept forward, rounding a corner of jagged rock, and there he saw her. It was Emma. Now 8 years old, she sat huddled in a crude cage made from the massive bones of some long-dead creature, singing quietly to herself. She had survived. She was thin. Her clothes were little more than tattered rags, and her once golden hair was matted with grime. But the light in her eyes, her spirit, seemed unbroken. When she finally noticed him standing in the shadows, her eyes widened, a mixture of fear and a fragile glimmer of hope. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm here to take you home," Marcus replied gently, his voice low and steady to avoid startling her further. "Your mother sent this." He moved closer to the cage of bones and held up the small, worn wooden doll. Emma's eyes, which had been wide with uncertainty, now filled with tears that traced clean paths down her dusty cheeks. Mama remembered me," she choked out, her small hand reaching through the bars. But before Marcus could offer another word of comfort, a deafening, earth-shattering roar shook the entire cavern. The very mountain seemed to tremble around them. Azrath had returned. The dragon emerged from the deeper shadows, a terrifying, magnificent creature of rippling muscle and obsidian scales. Its eyes glowed like 2 pools of molten gold, and plumes of acrid smoke curled from its nostrils with every breath. The beast was even larger than the legends had described, its immense wingspan nearly filling the vast chamber. A voice, rumbling like distant thunder and filled with ancient malice, echoed in Marcus's mind. "Another foolish human comes to die," Azrath boomed. "This child is mine. Leave now or burn." The dragon took a heavy step forward, its claws scraping against the stone floor, sending sparks into the air. But Marcus stood his ground, planting his feet firmly between the dragon and the cage. "I'm not leaving without her," he declared, his voice ringing with defiance. The dragon let out a terrible grating laugh, a sound that echoed through the mountain's core. "Then you will join the others in death." Hello, story lovers, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into an epic tale of courage, sacrifice, and redemption. Picture this: a seasoned warrior, haunted by his past, and a little girl, stolen from her home by a fearsome dragon. This is the story of Marcus and Emma, a saga that will grip you from the very first moment. Our hero, Marcus, is a man forged in battle, his skills honed over decades of conflict. But beneath the hardened exterior lies a heavy heart, burdened by a past failure. He lives a solitary life until a desperate plea reaches him. A young girl named Emma has been snatched by Azrath, a terrifying dragon of legend, and her mother Sarah begs Marcus to bring her back. For Marcus, this isn't just a quest for gold. It's a chance at redemption, a shot at silencing the ghosts that haunt him. The journey to the dragon's lair is a perilous one, a trek through treacherous, forgotten lands. Marcus pushes through jagged peaks and shadowy forests, his determination the only thing guiding him. He recalls ancient lore, piecing together clues about Azrath's weaknesses, knowing that a single mistake could be his last. Every step forward is a step into legend, a confrontation with a beast that has terrorized the region for centuries. The air grows colder, the landscape more desolate, and with each passing mile, Marcus can feel the oppressive presence of the dragon's mountain fortress looming ahead. Finally, he reaches the maw of the beast's den, a dark, gaping cave reeking of sulfur and death. Inside, the heat is suffocating. Piles of bones, the remains of unfortunate adventurers and livestock, litter the cavern floor. And there in the heart of the darkness, he sees it: Azrath, a colossal creature of nightmare, its scales like obsidian armor, its eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. Coiled protectively around a crude iron cage, the dragon sleeps. And inside that cage, clutching a small handmade doll, is Emma. Her eyes, wide with a mixture of terror and a flicker of hope, meet his. In that silent exchange, the battle lines are drawn. With the stealth of a shadow, Marcus advances, but the slightest sound, a dislodged pebble, is enough. The dragon's eyes snap open, a low growl rumbling deep in its chest. The air crackles with tension. Then, with a speed that defies its immense size, Azrath lunges, jaws snapping shut where Marcus stood just a heartbeat before. The warrior rolls, his blade singing through the air, carving a shallow gash across the dragon's snout. Black blood wells up, and the beast roars in pure, unadulterated fury. A torrent of liquid fire erupts from its throat, forcing Marcus to dive behind a stone pillar, the intense heat scorching his hair and armor. The battle is a brutal, desperate dance. Marcus, vastly outmatched in size and strength, must rely on his wits and agility. He uses the confined space of the cave to his advantage, staying dangerously close to the beast, turning its massive size into a liability. He ducks and weaves, his sword striking at the joints in the dragon's scale-like armor, searching for any weakness. Sweeping claws that could tear him in two miss by inches. Gouts of fire turn solid rock into molten slag around him. From her cage, Emma watches, her small hands clutching her doll, whispering prayers for the strange, brave man fighting for her life. Each time Marcus stumbles, a gasp escapes her lips. Each time he rises, battered but unbowed, her hope is rekindled. Marcus is pushed to his absolute limit. His armor is scorched and dented, his body a symphony of pain. Every muscle screams in protest, but he fights on, fueled by the sight of the little girl in the cage. He's not just fighting a monster, he's fighting for a future, for a child's laughter, for a chance to finally make things right. As the chaotic fight rages, he notices something, a subtle hesitation, a slight favoring of the dragon's left side. A fragmented passage from an ancient text flashes in his mind. A vulnerable spot, hidden beneath the left wing, where the scales are thinnest, directly over the heart. It's a long shot, a gamble that will cost him everything if he fails. Summoning his last ounce of strength, Marcus executes a daring feint. He lunges to the right, drawing the dragon's attention, then drops and rolls beneath the creature's massive, sweeping tail. As Azrath turns, its left side momentarily exposed, Marcus sees his chance. He leaps, a desperate final surge of adrenaline powering his limbs. With a warrior's cry that echoes off the cavern walls, He drives his sword deep into the vulnerable spot beneath the wing. A deafening roar of pure agony shakes the very foundations of the mountain. Stalactites rain down from the ceiling. The dragon thrashes wildly, a cyclone of claws and fury. But Marcus holds on, his grip like iron, pushing the blade deeper with every last bit of his failing strength. The beast's struggles weaken. Its golden eyes, once filled with fire and hate, begin to dim. With a final shuddering groan, the great dragon Azrath collapses, its reign of terror finally over. In the sudden, ringing silence, only the sound of labored breathing fills the cave. Marcus, bruised and bleeding, stumbles to the cage and wrenches the door open. Emma, tears streaming down her face, throws her small arms around his neck, sobbing with relief and exhaustion. The long journey home begins. Marcus carries the little girl when her own legs give out, distracting her from the horrors she's witnessed with gentle stories of her mother's love and the village that eagerly awaits her return. When they finally emerge from the shadow of the mountains, the sight that greets them is one of pure, unbridled joy. The entire village of Thornhaven has gathered, and as they spot the lone warrior carrying the small child, a cheer erupts. Sarah, Emma's mother, runs forward, sweeping her daughter into a desperate, loving embrace, both of them crying tears of happiness. The village elder presents Marcus with a chest overflowing with 5,000 gold pieces, a fortune fit for a king. But Marcus, looking at the repaired homes and the faces of the villagers, gives most of it away. He helps rebuild what the dragon's fear had broken and supports the families who had lost so much. For Marcus, the true reward wasn't the gold. It was the sound of Emma's laughter echoing through the village square as she played with the other children, safe and free. It was the peace that finally settled in his own heart. He had faced his demons, both real and imagined, and found not just redemption, but a new purpose: to be a shield for those who could not protect themselves. And sometimes, in the quiet of the night, he'd remember Emma's words as they left the mountain behind, a simple phrase that meant more than any treasure: "Thank you for being brave enough to believe I was still alive." What an incredible story of heroism and healing. It just goes to show that the greatest treasures aren't made of gold, but of hope and human connection. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure today. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button, subscribe for more tales, and let me know in the comments what you thought of Marcus's journey. Until next time, keep seeking out the epic stories in your own life.